Now, this is the Mint on ZTN Prime, your sneak peek into the world of business, finance, and economies. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Let's get started. Now, coming up, in the past year, the Competition and Tariff Commission has taken a stronger, more proactive role in cushioning local industries from unfair import pressures. They tightened monitoring of import trends, fast-tracked tariff reviews for sectors at risk, and pushed for decisions grounded in stronger data. Compared to last year, the Commission moved quicker, engaged industry more directly, and aligned its recommendations with broader economic recovery efforts, helping stabilize local production, protect jobs, and prevent unjustified price increases for consumers. We speak to the Competition and Tariff Commission right here on The Mint. Now, The Mint brought back. Don't go anywhere.
Harare, tune into the beat.
Capitalk 100.4 FM, your source for news, business, sports, fashion, and more.
Experience the pulse of Harare's culture and lifestyle.
Capitalk 100.4 FM, Harare's top radio station.
Join the conversation with Zimbabwe's top personalities.
Subscribe now for fresh and infotainment content daily.
Capital 100.4 FM, Harare's heartbeat.
Welcome back to the Mint as we come to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Ibn Mabunda. We take a look at all matters competition and tariff within Zimbabwe's borders. And for that, I'm joined from the Competition and Tariff Commission by Mr. Jonathan Dube, the Commission Secretary for the Commission, as well as Kalista Zenga, the Acting Assistant Director for the Mergers Division. Kalista and Jonathan, hello and welcome to the Mint.
Hello, Ibn. Hello, listeners and viewers.
Fantastic. To get the ball rolling, Kalista, may you speak to us about the mandate of the Competition and Tariff Commission?
Thank you, Ibn. So the Competition and Tariff Commission is a regulatory body which administers the Competition Act, Chapter 1428, and it opened its doors in 2001 through a merger of the Tariff Commission and the then Industry and Trade Commission. And so basically we administer the Commission Act Chapter 1428, which provide for two twin mandates. The first one is that we are a trade administration body which uses the tariff instrument to promote and protect the local industry from unfair import competition and also to promote their competitiveness in the regional and global markets. The second mandate is the promotion of competition through regulation of measures and also through redress of restrictive practices. So in general, that's the CTC for you.
Right. Perhaps as follow-up, may you speak to us about why it's important for there to be a strong competition policy and how that translates to better outcomes where the domestic market is concerned?
Thank you, Ibn. So let me first probably just highlight what competition is that we talk about. And so the competition that we refer to is that process of competition between market players, which is the firms, when they compete in the marketplace as they strive to gain the patronage of consumers. They then engage in innovation, they engage in productive efficiency, they engage in allocative efficiency by way of allocating resources to where they are most needed. They engage in productive efficiency in ways that they become innovative and try to produce at the lowest cost means. And so as they strive for the patronage of consumers, they are then forced to produce their products in the most low-cost way so that when they then sell their products to the consumers, they can then gain the patronage of consumers, and also that they are then forced to produce best quality products so that their products become appealing to the consumers, and all these benefits then are enjoyed by the consumers by way of them having variety of products, better quality products, and lower prices to the consumer. And so this then translates to the benefits to the consumers, and also in terms of economic development and economic growth, because we are having companies producing efficiently, allocating resources to where they are most needed, and then ultimately it means that as an economy we will benefit through productive efficiency.
Right. The 5th of December is the World Competition Day. Why is this an important day, and why is it celebrated?
And so even the World Competition Day is all about celebrating fair markets that come about through the implementation of competition policy. And so competition authorities world over, they celebrate this day to commemorate and to acknowledge the adoption of competition policy by the United Nations set of principles and rules in competition policy in 1980. And so it is a framework that governs market behavior in various jurisdictions where competition authorities then implement competition policy. And so to us as regulators, it is important because we get a moment to reflect of our successes on how we have managed to intervene in markets. And also as regulators and government, we also take a moment just to reflect on the movements and market dynamics or emerging issues which then have an impact on how competition policy should be framed and how we then have to react to that, to those emerging issues. So generally, it's just about celebrating the successes that we have done as competition authorities world over in terms of addressing consumer welfare through implementation of competition policy and law.
Right. Jonathan, this year's theme focuses on emerging market dynamics. What is the theme, and what key opportunities and issues does it present for market players?
In terms of market dynamics, this year's theme is artificial intelligence, consumers or consumer protection, and competition policy. So what's happening to those that have done economics, you remember the Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations long time ago, several centuries, they considered three factors of production. One was labor, land, and capital. But in today's environment or today's production, we are now adding yet another factor, which is data. And when you are doing your production, it's no longer aided just by those other three factors, but you are also looking at how you are manipulating data. And in artificial intelligence that rides on data is key in terms of production, in terms of efficient delivery of your products or efficient delivery of your service. So in this year's theme, we are saying how can entities leverage on artificial intelligence? How can they utilize data? And at the same time, we are also saying, are the regulators aware and awake to these new phenomena of doing business? Because artificial intelligence, while it is very important, very critical to deliver your services and produce products, it can also have adverse effects in terms of how consumers can be affected and how entities can be affected. And at the same time, how the competition arena can be affected.
I've got to ask this, as AI, of course, reshapes a modern day business, how prepared is the Commission to address risks such as algorithmic collusion as well as data-driven dominance?
Now, when talking algorithmic collusions, we are saying we have moved away from brick and mortar way of operations. I'll give you an example. When you are doing your online shopping, you are equally like someone who is walking into a built-up supermarket.
Right.
And what these other digital operating entities can actually reach further than the one that is closer to you. If you stay in a location, there's a supermarket close to you, but you can actually do business. Also, what's happening today is we have got individuals that are in Zimbabwe today, but working for South African firms, American firms. So in terms of how the competition authorities are dealing with that, we are upgrading ourselves, capacitating employees, introducing new technologies. Currently at the Commission in Zimbabwe, we are working on a system that should be able to incorporate some of these algorithms. How are we able to look at the prices, price collusion that can be done digitally? How can we look at those markets that be coordinated outside the normal coordination that you know? So we are capacitating our staff, and we are also aided by the other regional and international competition authorities. So we are bracing ourselves to these new things, educating ourselves, picking up the new phenomena as we go through.
Right. Where mergers and acquisitions are concerned, what is it that the public should be aware of, Callista?
Thank you very much, Eben, and that's a very important question. So, in light of major regulation by the Commission, we expect companies to notify any notifiable matter to the Commission in as much as it meets the threshold of notification, and currently it's pegged at $1.2 million US. And so what we mean is that if we are going to combine the asset value and the revenue of the merging parties, if it meets $1.2 million, then that transaction should be notified to the Competition and Tariff Commission. And maybe just to educate our listeners to say that a merger would involve anything from amalgamation, from acquisition of assets, from acquisition of shares. So if a company is going to acquire any controlling interest in another entity through shares, through acquisition of assets or amalgamation, then such a merger should be notified to the Competition and Tariff Commission. And so when on notification, parties are supposed to pay a fee that we calculate based on the revenue or assets of the merging parties. And upon notification, then the Commission then assesses the impact of that transaction. Because as a Commission, we do not want to create dominant firms or monopolies that then have got an effect of affecting competition or reducing quality or increasing prices to our consumers. So merger regulation basically is a proactive way by the Commission to promote competition in the economy of Zimbabwe. And our listeners will also know that failure to notify a merger within 30 days of implementation of the merger agreement attracts a penalty. And that penalty is significant because it can go up to 10% of the revenue of the merging parties calculated using the previous year of their financial accounts. So to us, when we then assess the transaction, we can either approve the transaction without conditions. We can approve with conditions that are aimed at eliminating or addressing any competition concerns that would have arise from the transaction. Or in extreme cases, when we see that the merger is going to substantially lessen competition or create a monopoly situation which is contrary to public interest, we then prohibit the transaction. And also maybe just to note that in assessing the transaction, we look mainly at two issues: the competition effects and the public interest effect. So as a competition authority, we are also aware and we're also alive to other policies by the government. And so where a merger is then going to result in public interest benefits, sometimes we may approve it subject to conditions that are meant to address the competition concerns that we would have identified. And also if it leads to efficiencies, sometimes we then approve it so that the country as a whole can benefit from the efficiencies that the merger is going to bring through. So we would then encourage our stakeholders, our listeners to please notify any notifiable transaction to avoid penalties by the Commission.
Right, now time for us to take a breather. When we come back, we continue with this conversation as we look at just how the domestic competitive landscape fares against what we have playing out elsewhere where the region is concerned. Now, the Mental Bradback, don't go anywhere.
Didn't graduate. I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoiled.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
The guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
Harare. Tune into the beat.
Capitalk 100.4 FM, your source for news, business, sports, fashion, and more.
Experience the pulse of Harare's culture and lifestyle.
Capitalk 100.4 FM, Harare's top radio station.
Join the conversation with Zimbabwe's top personalities.
Subscribe now for fresh and infotainment content daily.
Capital 100.4 FM, Harare's heartbeat.
Welcome back to the Minute. We are coming to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I am Eben Mabunda. The 5th of December is the World Competition Day, and we do have a conversation officers or officials from the Competition and Tariff Commission of Zimbabwe. Well, of course, we pick up from where we left off. Callista, would you want to speak to us about how the Commission detects, investigates, and addresses anti-competitive conduct in the market?
Thank you, Eben. So maybe let me just start by explaining what anti-competitive practices are. And so these are practices that are engaged in mostly by dominant firms so that they eliminate their competition or they gain unfair competitive advantage over their competitors. So as a competition authority, we are concerned by that behavior because we know that ultimately it is going to have detrimental effects on the economy at large. And so we then have to intervene by redressing such practices, and that these vary. Some of them might be cartel conduct by companies agreeing to set prices. There may be abuse of dominance cases where companies can engage in exclusionary behavior or excessive pricing, or they can be anti-competitive vertical agreements between companies in the upstream and downstream markets. And so by way of detection, we take both a reactive approach and a proactive approach. By the proactive approach, we mean that we do market studies where we identify those markets that are mainly highly concentrated. When highly concentrated, we mean that those that have fewer players because they are prone to anti-competitive conduct. So when we do market research, we then feel as to say probably there is an anti-competitive practice happening in this particular sector, and then we initiate the investigation, and also we then take the reactive approach where companies that are victims of anti-competitive conduct come to us, come to our offices, they report such practice, and we initiate investigation. We also pick it through media, through press, and also through social media, and then we initiate our investigation. So that's it in terms of detection. And also in terms of investigation, we consult various stakeholders for us to be able to have an insight of how markets operate, because as we are aware, we are not experts in any industry, but mostly we depend on input from our various stakeholders. So when we have a complaint, we engage various stakeholders, be it competitors, be it customers, be it sector regulators, for us to have a full of what the market is and how it operates. And then after that, when then come back to the table and then we apply our competition law, we then apply the law against the practice that would have been reported to us, or that would have identified. And then the remedies are available. We can then issue cease and desist orders, and some of the offences are criminal offences, and also some of them attract penalties. And so that is how we then intervene in the markets in terms of redress of recessive practices.
Right. Jonathan, how do you ensure that there is a balance between firm enforcement vis-a-vis creating an environment that still encourages investment as well as innovation in this economy?
The first thing to address when we are looking at regulation is to say regulation, its role in any development or innovation or production is to create a conducive environment, is to assure the investor what I might term investor safety, and confidence in them coming or investing in a country. So you want to balance the two to say the regulation should not be prohibitive. And when the regulation has been put across, it has to be communicated, it has to be clearly defined, it has to have information should be spread to the users or those that are going to be affected by that particular regulation. So you look at it 3 weeks ago as a commission, we held a conference that was just public knowledge to the users of the Competition Act and those that are affected by the competition law. And tomorrow, as we celebrate the Competition Day, is another way of promulgating and informing the users of the regulation. So the regulation should be behind any innovation that is there. It should not be hard. It should not be prohibitive. We are not actually there. It's not actually there to distract or deter innovation. So basically communicated, easy to interpret. You don't want to come up with a regulation that people are struggling to interpret. Even those who are implementing are struggling to say what is it for. So you want to have a balanced situation. They also want to communicate it to the individuals that use it.
Right. The digital revolution has brought about a new angle of competition where the competitive space has been expanded even from a digital perspective. A good example perhaps would be how in Zimbabwe we have a domestically created ride-hailing service, Tap and Go. But that Tap and Go is having to compete against InDrive, against Taxify, against Uber, where the ride-hailing service itself is concerned. Now the question then becomes, how do you ensure that there is some degree of balance and fair competition within the digital context?
True, Eben, it's a new phenomenon. Our current act that we are using, the Competition Act, Chapter 1428, as my colleague has inserted, is under review. It's at a stage, it's just gone past the preliminary stages. It is also, we are also building into these new phenomena where we are saying, okay, the market dynamics or the market definitions that we used to have long time ago, or the prohibitions that we used to have long ago, have since expired. The world has so become ubiquitous, it can actually fit in your hand, and the borders have become seamless. Same applies with the competition laws, they've also evolved. So as a commission, we've put our right foot, our foot ahead and say, let's look at the current act that we have. Is it talking to the current situations? So we are changing the laws not to prohibit growth, not to prohibit expansion, but to regulate so that there is fair competition. There is always a problem when people think when the law comes, it has come to prohibit. As a competition authority, we do not prohibit dominance, but we prohibit abuse of that dominance. You can grow as big as you like, but once you start abusing that growth, then the law comes to you and say, we need you to play fairly. You can't be the referee, the player, the linesman, and the match commissioner at the same time. But you also want others. So we are working on a law that speaks to current trends and that will regulate that area.
Right, Callista, competition issues increasingly cross the borders. Now the question is, how do you work with other bodies, the COMESA as well? How do you ensure readiness for the African Continental Free Trade Area, which Zimbabwe is party to?
Thank you very much, Eben, for that question. And so, yeah, true. As the Competition Authority, we also work with other authorities in the region and globally to make sure that we also align our laws with the emerging trends and also we keep abreast with changes in competition enforcement across the globe. And so in the region, we've got an MOU under SADC where we have an MOU for cooperation framework among SADC member states where we share knowledge, where we share insights and where practices are shared and we discuss, which then informs our implementation back home. And under COMESA, we've got a supranational competition authority, which is the COMESA Competition Commission, which governs competition in as far as competition is concerned between two or more member states of the COMESA bloc. And so, as Zimbabwe, when, for example, when we receive majors, that has got a that is within the COMESA region. We give our input, we assess the transaction, and then we recommend to COMESA. We work closely with COMESA Competition Commission, and then which then comes up with a decision in respect of that measure. Also, the same applies even to restrictive practices. If a practice has got an effect within the COMESA region, Zimbabwe gives in its input, and then it is decided by the COMESA Competition Commission. And as we are aware, under the AFCFTA is a new agreement which is coming into place, a new block which currently in terms of competition law enforcement, we are negotiating on the competition protocol, which we've just concluded, and we are now working on regulations which will then govern the institutionalization of the AFCFTA Competition Authority in terms of setup of the tribunal of the Competition Authority, and also the referral system by competition authorities. So as you can see, Eben, we are very much active and we collaborate very well with authorities in the region and beyond. And also globally, we are a member of the International Competition Network, where we hold annual conferences, meetings relating to measures, research practices, advocacy, where we share experiences and insights which then inform even our policies back home, so that we are not obsolete, so to speak, but we move with trends to ensure that our competition policy is effectively implemented even in the Zimbabwean market.
Right. Jonathan, what steps are being taken to build the Commission's technical capacity to be able to address future challenges as they appear?
There are challenges that have come aboard with the new phenomena. So as a commission, other issues that we are encouraging and we are hoping to work on are to do with interoperability. If you look at how our entities are operating, there is a lot of duplicated capital around. Certain issues can then be still achieved riding on the same platform, but you will have entity A, entity B, entity C, at a local area having equally the same type of equipment, where they could actually have operated from one particular capital base. Then we also have got issues to do with transparency and accountability. If you go nationally, we are talking of the whole of government approach. So we are saying in terms of achieving all what we have put across here, there has to be transparency, there has to be accountability. Then international cooperation, my colleague here has spoken about COMESA, African Continental Free Trade Area, ICN, and all other bodies that are there. Because what is happening now, we also talk of those issues where we are saying they are going to be cross-border cartels, etc. So as long as there is no relationship and good working relationship between ourselves and other bodies, then it can impact us. Finally, then the global cooperation that is there, that we need to enhance on and live on. When African Continental Free Trade Area is really full swing, it is going to change the whole way we are doing business in this country. And we as a Zimbabwean country, as a Zimbabwe, we need our own industries to compete out there. Otherwise, if they are not competitive, our consumers are going to suffer. We will become a supermarket where we are just receiving goods, and at some point we will become a warehouse. So we need to encourage, we need to support our industry by proper regulation. We as a commission, what we are also encouraging is we are not going to regulate for inefficiency and mediocrity. We will support entities that want to produce at a competitive rate. So these are the issues that we say, the risks that we are going to face, especially by opening up of borders, which is going to impact the level of competition within our nation.
Right, we have come to the end of our program. I'd like to thank my guests, Kalista Zenga, the Acting Assistant Director for Mergers Division at the Competition Tariff Commission, as well as Jonathan Dube, Competition and Tariff Commission Secretary. Kalista and Jonathan, thank you for appearing on The Mint.
Thank you, Ben.
And we hope you are going to be with us as we celebrate our competition day. This is a world competition there. It's not just Zimbabwean competition there. Thank you.
Fantastic. And of course, that's a wrap on the Mint. Do follow us on our social media handles as well as at ZTN Prime. Your views and your thoughts are important to us. I'm Eben Mabunda, the money man. Let them do what they do. When we do what we do, we mean business. Thank you for watching and have a good day.